Welcome to That's Canon, the podcast talking about the Canon film series and other similar movies. This is episode 63, and I'm Phil.
And I'm Greg.
And we watched Detective School Dropouts today.
Yes, a comedy.
What's a comedy
Dot.
written by the two main stars, David Landsberg and Lauren Dreyfus.
What?
Yeah, this was written by them.
Oh, I guess I must have missed out on the opening credits.
This isn't their only duo team up either. There's another Canon film that I'm surprised that they allowed them to do this, that they teamed up in called Dutch Treat, that again,
Ew.
they wrote.
This actually that kind of changed the whole dynamic of this movie for me because I thought that this was just like these were like struggling. I mean, obviously Lauren Dreyfus, he's the lesser Dreyfus, but like these seems like struggling actors who try to like break in and get like build up their comedy chops, but that kind of changes the dynamic to like they I don't know, there was this like a vanity thing for them. Like, and Cannon was the only one to give them a shot.
It seems like it's a failed Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin type team up
Whew.
stuff. You know what I mean?
I don't. My knowledge doesn't go that far back.
It's like
Another comedy duo.
Failed Harold Ramis, Bill Murray duo.
Okay, yeah. Now I'm tracking. They tried to. They think they had chemistry and they had a shtick that they wanted to do.
Exactly. They thought that they were going to make Caddyshack and Stripes and Ghostbusters, but what we got in return was Detective School Dropouts.
Yeah. I mean, so we should talk about like how does this stack up? Because we've watched a couple comedies so far. Probably more than a couple.
Second worst comedy that we've seen. Second worst comedy.
Okay, so I was going to ask, does Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype still have that bottomest of the barrel stature for you?
100%, but I look more fondly on it as time goes on, that's for sure, but it's still the worst comedy that we've seen.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this one it was mostly unoffensive, but also mostly unfunny. I don't know. This one struck me more middle of the road than some of the other ones because honestly, for me, like Heckle and Hype is the one that is worst of the worst, but also like we talk about that all the time now. And I haven't even said this before. Like we still reference that one. We are not going to reference this, but it also wasn't the most painful for me personally. Like I didn't actively hate this one in the way that I hated Last American Virgin. So I don't know how to think about this. This definitely falls into that category of it's offensive by being boring almost.
Exactly.
You know
100%. 100%. Let's go ahead and let's get into it because at least I don't think I have a lot to say about it.
I was going to say this is going to be like, I mean, our episodes tend to top out like between an hour and a half. This is probably going to be a short episode because just looking at my notes, it's not a lot. So
exactly,
we'll say what we can about Detective School Dropouts.
We get a great Canon logo, which immediately busts our theory that if you get the whole shebang, that the movie is going to be good.
I know.
Because it isn't. It's 4:3 aspect ratio.
I know. So right off the bat, I'm already like set up for failure. One, because you're right. Like, we got the full Canon logo. Is our rule going to be dropped? Which, spoilers, it was totally blown out of the water. But also, like, so I watched this on Paramount Plus. I'm not sure if you did.
Same here. Yep.
And I think, okay, so maybe this will be like a decent HD transfer. It's not like some crappy YouTube VHS rip, but it still looks like dog shit. And yeah, it's 4:3, which I mean, I don't hate by itself, but it doesn't add, it doesn't help in this case, that's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like a little bit above DVD quality if you watch it on Paramount Plus. The movie opens with a voiceover narration by David Landsberg, who plays the primary character Donald Wilson. He has a lot of like awkward voiceovers to bridge the gaps in the story because it kind of just transitions at points from one thing to the next, and they needed like a bridge to connect the two.
Yeah, he's like the exposition narrator, filling in gaps about this like weirdly complex, like Romeo and Juliet kind of
Oh my
mafia
God.
boss
Thank God you
thing.
said it. I didn't know if I was just hungover from the night before. The plot is way too complex for what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, it is. And so like the narrator, like, but that the fact that he is both a character in the movie and a narrator, usually when we get that in a movie, it's because like the character is telling, he's like regaling his friends or family with the story of how he blah 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 blah. But like at the movie, spoiler, we're jumping around here, but like the movie ends without him being resolved. It's like why he's the narrator, like how,
Exactly.
because he knows way more than him as the character should about what's going on.
If the movie ended with him like at a typewriter writing a detective novel about the events that he
Oh
just
my
went through.
god, yes, I didn't even think about that. But so okay, we're back to the beginning of the movie where we are introduced to this schlub of a guy, and he's like he can't hold down a job. He's failing constantly at every job he's got because he's so obsessed with detective novels.
Yep.
And that like that's all he wants to do. He's got these fantasies about being a private eye and going on adventures. Like, how good would it have been? Wow, Phil, you just like made this movie so much better in my head. If he were if this was him as at a typewriter finishing up his debut detective novel. Wow. But
Exactly.
we don't get that.
We don't.
So
We don't. Yeah, we get a series of him getting fired from different jobs from, like as you said, reading detective novels, and then we cut to Italy, where we get introduced to like this land war or cheese war, essentially.
it is a cheese war, yeah.
Um,
Three. So it's
three
three, or was it? No, it's three, right?
three families. Two of
Yeah,
them were at war, and the third is kind of off in the wings, just observing everything happen.
yeah. And
Uh,
they're trying to they're fighting over cheese territory because they all want to have the big Italian export cheese business all to themselves. And it's this almost seems like it could have actually happened. Like that's a big export for that country. So it wouldn't surprise me if there were actual mafia wars over cheese turf.
exactly. And then there's two of the warring mafia tribes, oh my god, top mafia families.
There you go.
There's like a Romeo and Juliet-esque star-crossed lovers, and that's where our, I wouldn't even say she's like the main female interest, Valeria Golino, who plays Katerina. She's barely in this movie,
Yeah, there's
but
really no female characters whatsoever. Um, but yeah, I guess there's a guy from one family. He's fallen in love with the daughter of another family, and like the third family is worried that when they get married, they're going like their families are going to merge and they're going to force them out. So they're like, there's an aspect of them trying to like stop the marriage. So he like splits them up and tries to marry off to a daughter from the third family, right?
exactly, yeah,
Shit, I don't
it's
know.
very complicated, very complicated. But yeah, she gets kidnapped, and now one of the guys from the other families is being forced to marry a different woman to essentially make like the cheese connection stronger.
Jeez,
And
the cheese connections.
you get this all within like 5 minutes, and it's, if you don't catch it then it doesn't really matter. We cut back to America, where we meet Richard Dreyfuss's less talented brother, Lauren Dreyfus, who plays Detective Paul Miller, who's a down on his luck private eye. He owes a bunch of money, and there's a lot of really bad gags that involve people saying, "Give me my money back."
Yeah, because it's like it goes on way too long to establish that this guy is basically in debt up to his eyeballs. Because we've got the landlord harassing him, like the hot dog stand guy even says you owe me money. The electric and gas company calls him, and he makes up this stupid gag about him pretending to be an answering machine, and he hasn't been paying his secretary, so she's pissed. Like
Yeah,
everyone fucking hates this guy.
he owes the secretary like $900.
900 in 1985, $6, which is a lot of money.
Insane. And these are the only, I mean, I wouldn't even say these are recognizable actors, but at least like Richard Dreyfuss's brother, he sort of looks like Richard Dreyfuss. So, but these are like
Yeah.
the only two real, quote unquote, real actors in this. Like the secretary, you think that they would try to find some character actor from the 80s to be in this along with them that is comedic, but
Mm-hmm.
I have no fucking clue who she
No.
is.
Yeah, like, and that's one of the weird things about this movie that I noticed too is exactly like you said, like there's usually one or two familiar faces, like, oh, it's that guy or that lady. You like character actors that you would like recognize from other TV shows or something, but no one. It's like a sea of nobodies in this. The most recognizable thing was, like you said, the voice. Honestly, it was for me his voice, Lauren Dreyfuss's voice, that sounded like his brother. That was it.
Exactly. Eventually, Donald is down on his luck and he finds a be a detective ad on a payphone, which, if you don't know what a payphone is, back in the day, you didn't have cell phones. So there used to be stands in the like corners of streets and you used to make phone calls from them.
And you
And
put a coin in and get a phone call out.
exactly.
Wow.
So Donald calls up Paul. They arrange for him to become a student, but not before a hobo pisses on Donald's leg. That's the joke.
Homeless people. Wow, hilarious.
So now we finally get to the detective school portion of this movie, 11 minutes into it. Don immediately they start bilking Donald left and right for tuition and all these upfront costs.
And
And
they're also like grifting him on like they're like playing gin and darts and like, oh, you want to go double or nothing, and like racking up a betting bill to just
yeah,
fleece this guy for everything. Like, I'm amazed he's stuck around this long.
and like unlike Police Academy, where there's funny moments going on throughout the training, they really only have like two training moments in this where they half-ass try to pick a lock, and then there's a gag with a gun being shot.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's like 3 weeks have passed at this point, which is bonkers. Like whoa, 3 weeks have already passed. But like normally we would expect a montage there, like a training montage where these idiots are learning how to do detective stuff, like testing for fingerprints and lock picking and interviewing suspects and witnesses. There's so many things you could do with that montage, but you're right, it's over in like a minute. It's the lock picking we get 5 seconds of.
Yeah. And then that is the extent of detective school. It's 15 minutes and no one drops out.
I was like, the entire title of this movie hinges on detective school and dropping out of it. And the entire concept of a detective school is completely out the window by the 15-minute mark. Completely. It never comes
Completely.
up again.
They do a Ace Ventura um type gag where Lauren Dreyfus kidnaps a dog. They spray paint it a different color and try to return it for the reward money. They do that in Ace Ventura. I mean, obviously Ace Ventura is later down the road, but it's an Ace Ventura type gag.
And I mean, I probably don't need to say this, but executed much better in Ace Ventura.
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. I mean, these two have no comedic presence with each other. There's really no like rapport. I don't see these two being friends in real life, despite the fact that probably they were.
Yeah, apparently they were like enough of like a writing partner duo that they were doing multiple movies together. But yeah, you're like it's at this point we've seen them try every kind of comedy. Like we've gotten some slapstick stuff. There's some like situational stuff. Like it's none of it lands, and they just have no chemistry with each other.
Yeah, so I mean, they attempt to return the dog, and that's when they start to get involved with the whole kidnapping cheese war because they find the woman.
Oh
What's her name
yeah,
again? Katerina.
Catalina, Katerina. Yeah,
Katerina. They find her kidnapped inside the house that they try to return the stolen poodle to.
yeah. Like the dog gets loose from the leash and runs into the house, and little like bald idiot chases it, and then he stumbles into a bedroom where she's being held, like kidnapped away from the guy she's in love with, right?
Yep, exactly. And she hands Donald a necklace and she's like, "Show this to my husband. Stop him from marrying the other woman. I'm still alive." and that's what sets off the series of adventures. And now they're getting attacked by someone named Bruno, who's kind of like this big mob enforcer.
Yeah.
Kind of like he's like, he's the muscle,
He's the
right?
goon. Yeah, he's the mafia goon who doesn't say a lot, but he just there to look scary and punch stuff.
Dude's in a ton of horror movies, Italian horror movies. George Eastman is the actor. Surprise,
Is
his name
he?
is Luigi, by the way, but his acting name is George.
George. Yeah,
He's
all right
actually
there.
in Anthropophagus, which is the second feature from this weekend's Joe Bob.
Oh, yeah. Okay, interesting. So maybe he would had we been able to stay awake for that second movie, he would have been the lone like, oh, it's that guy face we would have seen in this movie.
Exactly.
We're so old, Phil.
I know. I can't stay up late anymore. Uh, so Donald and Paul, they decide to go to Italy to save the woman. Not Donald has to coax Paul into doing it. He's more Paul is who is Lauren Dreyfus. He's more for the quick buck. Donald is in it for actually
He,
solving the mystery.
yeah, he's the one who's got like the modicum of integrity and moral fabric to him, but so they I forget like what actually gets them on the plane though, because like they don't
Bruno is
want.
chasing him.
That's right, because like they don't intend to go to Italy. They just want to they want to chase down a guy from the family, like the uncle of the guy she's in love with, to show him the pendant so that he can pass the message along.
Yep. Yeah. They have to get on, show the pendant to the uncle, and then the uncle will take it from there. So they meet the uncle on the plane, and both Lauren Dreyfus and Donald have come. They're on the plane to Italy without their passports. They show the pennant and go through the whole spiel with the uncle, and the uncle gets poisoned by Bruno. I don't know what kind of fucking poison it is, but he dies in like 2 seconds.
Instantly, yeah. Man, remember being able to like get to the flight terminal without a ticket or going through security.
Oh yeah, insane.
It's it's always fun. I think we've probably commented on this in other episodes. It's always fun to see these like how much air travel has changed in a lot of these 80s movies. Like people like wandering around the airport without tickets, with poison vials of poison or whatever shit that they poured in this guy's drink. Like, man, how times have changed.
It is insane. It is insane. Uh, they take him as he's dying into a bathroom to hide the body, and they're given like a gun and some, I think, some money or some lira, and he goes like, "Stop the wedding," and he dies. Donald drops his ID in the bathroom, and now we get our first setup for a running gag. There's like an old couple, and our two detectives keep kind of like messing up or razzing with the woman, unbeknownst to the man in the beginning.
Yeah, she's there. It's like this old couple. They're on a vacation. She's super uptight and controlling, and she's like trying to get her husband to take really nice photos of her. And she's like a proto Instagrammer almost. And,
Exactly.
and like and you mentioned it, like that's like the one recurring gag that they continuously set up that I thought was going to pay off at the end, but it doesn't. I guess I have to give some credit to the fact that they actually kept it going throughout the movie in funny-ish ways, but it doesn't go anywhere.
It doesn't. No. Eventually the plane lands, and Donald and Paul, they realize that they don't have their passports. So what do? They plant the gun in the woman's handbag, and they scream gun, and they run out of the airport, and they notice, they're like, hey, it's the other mob. Those are the guys that we need to talk to stop the wedding. I don't know how they know,
I don't. Yeah,
but they
it's
just
that
know.
like they haven't gotten name. I think they've got like last names and that's it. But they're just looking at these schmucks in the airport. Yeah, that whole how they have continued to pick up the trail in this whole thing. Maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention because it was bored out of my mind. But yeah,
So
it's
boring.
not clear.
But Bruno comes up and he tries to kidnap him. They fight him off. They kick his hand in a door, which was kind of got like a little chuckle from me. Just physical violence.
Okay, yeah, take that back. This poor Bruno. That's like the other recurring thing is him just getting bashed on constantly, and like accumulating bandages and injuries throughout the whole movie.
He's like Jaws from James Bond. He's like this indestructible
The
being, right?
indestructible goon who just keeps coming. Yeah.
Thus ensues the lamest car chase where they do the gag of "we lost them" multiple times.
Oh my god. So remember how we talk about we needing like comedy montages of Detective School? We could have used another montage here where they're trying to they're hitting the Italian pavement looking for the family, going to pizza restaurants and Italian museums and things. But like 90% of this movie is chase scenes, and this is the first of many that goes on way too long.
Super long, excruciatingly long.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm like, I know I was hungover this morning, but I was like, this is fucking brutal.
Did you actually fast forward through any of this movie?
I didn't fast forward through any of it, but I mean, there were times where I was probably just like groaning. I don't know if it was from being hungover or just from how horrible at
This,
points this movie is.
yeah, because the reason I ask is I know at this point, and I feel like it's been a while since I've commented on this, but this is the point in the movie where I moused over the progress bar in Paramount Plus. Like I haven't done that for a lot of movies recently. Like I haven't been so bored by a movie that I've had to check how much time is left. But I think at this point I moused over it, like when this chase scene kept going, and we weren't even halfway through the movie at
Yeah,
all.
I did the same thing
It
at
was
this point.
bad.
Same thing. I was like, oh my God, I thought this movie was on for like an hour at least. I've
We're
got
at
an,
like we're like the 40-minute mark at best, I think, at this point.
yeah.
Ugh.
Now Paul and Donald have split up because, again, Paul's trying to find the fast and easy way out, and Donald's actually trying to solve the mystery. And so Donald, like,
So they split up, right? After
yeah,
the car chase.
Donald, he spends like a night in like a park, and there's a bunch of prostitutes trying to like get him to buy time with them, and he's not interested. And Paul's staying at like this swanky place,
Which makes no sense because
because he's broke.
he's broke as shit. Where did
Yeah,
he get the money for this? And he not only is he broke, the actually has money, lost his freaking wallet in the airport, which comes back later. So how did they pay for this hotel room?
exactly. And it's about to come up right now because Donald finds the U.S. Embassy after seeing a magazine cover of Ronald Reagan and Carrie Strug, and he's like, I can
It's
do this, America.
it's Mary Lou Retton.
Mary Lou Retton.
I don't know why I remember that, but I remember Mary Lou Retton. I'm like, because I think he says her name or something. He's like, wow, some timely references in this movie.
Yeah. As he enters the embassy, the woman who had the gun planted on her is also there talking about Donald. And then Donald sees his mugshot in like a glass case.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, and he still has because like so back at the airport when the only reason they got on the plane is because they stole tickets from two like Japanese businessmen, and they tried to have this running gag of them having obviously Japanese sounding names that did not fit them.
Yep.
And I guess that's kind of funny than like still having that name on all the like the wanted posters, I guess. But we get it again here. At least they stuck with it.
They did stick with it. They did do something.
They did a thing.
Uh, and there's just more like talking with the mob bosses and just kind of like these characters falling into situations trying to solve the case in their own specific unique ways,
Yeah.
but none of the gags really seem to land.
I think like was this the part where Donald is like he's like been out all night and he walks by a cafe and he just eats that guy's spaghetti.
Yes, that part was kind of funny.
That was kind of funny. And the other reason I wanted to call it up is that you had an excuse to put in a clip of that somebody touching my spaghetti.
Somebody touch on my spaghetti.
We'll edit that in right here. And there we go. We've got something funny in this episode for once.
Meanwhile, though, Paul is talking to the actual mob boss, who is the father of the woman that's been kidnapped. And he's kind of getting the once over, not physically, just, question after question, because they're like, how do you know about her? This, that, and the other. And that's when they try to, they start coming to the conclusion that she's still alive. and that this is all a giant ploy, right? There's like a plot against them.
So how did how did the mob family find not Richard Dreyfuss? Like,
I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. I think it was just happenstance that they found him and they kind of like kidnapped him because I
yeah,
remember them untying him.
that's right. They grab him outside the nice hotel. But did he like flash the pendant or something? Or wait, he doesn't have
He
the pendant at this
he
point.
talks about how the the kidnapped daughter looks like the painting from 500 years ago.
Oh,
Remember
that's yeah.
the lady in the painting also has the pendant on and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh exactly.
What's
Rome.
why are we expending brain cells trying to puzzle out this plot?
I don't know. It's pretty brutal, but Paul and Donald, they finally team back up and now they know that they need to stop the wedding at all costs. So they go to the church where the wedding is going to happen, and that's when we get kind of an amusing scene where they dress up as monks and Bruno starts confessing about how he's murdered people and how he needs to kill more people, and they're like, just do a couple Hail Marys and you'll be fine.
Also, stop killing people.
Also stop killing people.
That
uh
was like the one line of this movie that actually got like a loud exhale from me.
exactly. So after they have their confrontation in quotes with Bruno, they run out to the streets of Rome, and there's just like more physical violence between Donald and Paul. And the old lady shows up again. She wants to get a photo with the monks, unbeknownst to her that they're the two people that she keeps running into, and
Yeah.
they steal her camera for some reason.
I get like don't they just immediately pawn it? Isn't that the
Yeah, they pawn it for some petty
for some
cash.
petty cash? Yeah. Again, the recurring like poor old couple just wanted to take some nice photos on their vacation. I'll give the movie some credit for that. I like that they find creative ways to have them keep cropping up.
The next day, after doing a little bit of sleuthing that kind of goes nowhere, the next day, Paul and Donald, they show up in the Leaning Tower of Pisa and they hit a Ferrari. They have this really awkward gag where they fight the owner of the Ferrari, and they rip his clothes off. And then they like run up the Tower of Pisa in this
Yeah.
really weird like matte painting superimposed
Okay.
special effect.
I so you think it was a matte painting? I couldn't tell if it was real or not because it didn't look half bad. I mean, if it was fake, they did a pretty decent job because I actually was like, did wait, like how did these idiots get to film on the Leaning Tower of Pisa? And I mean that explains if it's like an optical effect, but it looked pretty good. I thought they were actually running. I don't know. We may have to go back and look at it. I thought they were actually like running around the Leaning Tower, which would have been an amazing get for this production.
Oh, definitely. I mean, maybe you're right. I honestly, what the fuck is the point of the Leaning Tower of Pisa?
It's an they put it in because it's recognizably Italian.
Oh no. In real life,
Oh, in real
what the
life,
fuck is the point of it?
it's a tourist trap. I think that's the only reason they keep it. Like I think I remember reading an article like it's like it still continues to lean a little bit, so they try to shore up it's like the structural soundness, but not so much that they're actually making it unlean. Like they want to keep it
Interesting.
leaning at this particular angle. I think like yeah, they like spend probably huge amounts of money keeping it the way it is because that's probably the only reason any tourists are going because I think it's not that's kind of far away from Rome. If it's not like right nearby. It's a little bit of a
It's
drive.
in
So
Pisa, Italy. So yeah, interesting. I don't know. I don't really know too much about
yeah,
Italian history, so I don't know why in 1185 that this thing was built.
it's a
Yeah,
tower.
besides it being a tower.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm American. I don't know about European history.
It was more interesting to look at than the movie itself. I'll give it that.
You know what? Rewatching it, they are on the actual tower. That's fucking crazy that they let these
Yeah.
assholes run across it.
I mean, again, it must have been a cash grab. They probably blew a whole bunch of their budget doing this because, like,
They blew their entire budget on this film, Greg. They blew all of their money. Fucking Canon, after seeing bombs like this, blowing their money on pieces of shit like this. I feel less and less sad that they went out of business.
Yeah, because this is why they spent, I'm sure, a ton of money to shoot this scene, this slapstick nonsense on the Leaning Tower of Pisa, paying the Italian government a ton of money, I'm sure. But like, if they actually did that, it looks super dangerous. Like it's leaning quite a bit. I would not want to be running around that without a railing because there is no railing when they're up
Same here.
there.
That's like Death Star construction, where like all of a sudden it's like a 1,000-foot drop
A
into a
bajillion foot
reactor
drop.
core.
Yeah, exactly. So they could get emperored off the edge of that thing at any moment.
Yep. Uh, Donald and Paul, they start getting chased by the Italian mob, and they, after fucking like 10 minutes, it seems, of them running around Pisa, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, they finally run back to the Ferrari, and we get another like 10-minute gag of them driving
Oh my
really
god!
fast.
It wasn't a bad gag at first because like the whole idea is like it's the Ferrari's parked in front of their little jalopy and they steal the Ferrari instead and they just like blast off at like warp speed. It's actually kind of a funny gag for half a second,
The
but
first part of it, where it's like the bumpkins of Italy, and you hit like the grandma's like she's keyed off on the sound of a
she's like,
speeding
"Shh,
Ferrari.
listen, do you hear that?"
Yeah, and they kind of like get blown back, and I was like,
Yeah,
that's funny. But then they
yeah.
do it like 10 more times.
10 more times through all these like yeah the other Italian country bumpkins, and it just goes on so long. The comic timing is so thrown off by how long these gags last.
Eventually, though, they get to like a port or some, again, I don't really know. I don't know Italian geography, but they get to like a port of call somewhere, right?
It's another in Venice, I think.
And somehow, maybe I missed it, but somehow Katerina has arrived in Italy.
Fuck, how did she get to Italy?
I
Because
have no fucking clue.
she was being held hostage in like upstate New York somewhere
Yeah,
or Long Island or something. How did she? Hmm,
I'm not
I don't know.
reminded to find out.
Canon movie magic.
Because Paul and Donald are helping her escape from the clutches of the mafia in Venice. And again, like the old couple's there, and she want the lady wants a picture of her on a gondola, and
Oh,
they rip through the gondola on
that's
their like
right.
speedboats and stuff.
Okay, so I think I remember now. So the guy who was in the one cheese mafia guy who was in love with Katerina, he's being forced to marry the other family girl, but somehow he has some leverage on them. So he's like, I want to see Katerina before the wedding. So that's why they bring her to Italy so that they can make good on that bargain. And then so, but they don't get to talk to each other. They get to just see each other in a quick pass by when two motorboats go by each other in opposite directions during in a Venetian canal. And then
Exactly.
that's how we get to this weird, again, another chase scene, only we're on boats and jet skis now.
Yep. The chasing goes on for a little bit too long.
Again.
And then eventually we do get to the ultimate, set piece at the end, which is the actual wedding. And Donald and Paul have infiltrated it. They've taken out the would bride to be from the other Italian mafia, who turns out to be Bruno's lover.
Oh, that's
Making
right.
it
Yeah.
complicated at the end for some reason.
So we
And
get we get that classic bit where we've got a guy in a wedding dress pretending to be a bride. I'll be just one more minute, dear.
exactly. And then at the end, when the wedding procession is happening, you assume that Donald is in the wedding dress, but it turns out to be Katerina. And you're just like, what the fuck?
What
How did
happened?
Katerina get here?
I mean, like, I guess that's kind of cool that they like trick these mob families into letting the two star-crossed lovers actually get married. But from a comedic standpoint, it would have been way funnier to have Donald getting married to this guy and having everyone freak out about it.
Exactly. And it's kind of just resolved. Like the two warring mob families are just kind of like, whatever. And the third one is, I guess, fine with it as well.
Okay, like right, that was probably the biggest confusing point for me about the end here is like so the third family who's like crap we can't let this wedding happen. they like they like infiltrate the wedding. They kill all of the help, and then they take on the uniforms, but they're all packing grenades and machine guns and stuff. So they're gonna like do this big assassination, and they're all in the wedding party. But like when this whole reveal happens, oh, it's actually the girl. They don't just start opening fire and killing everyone. Like they
Yeah,
just, oh well, we got, and then they just put their guns down.
and that's okay.
I don't get it.
Paul and Donald were offered $25,000 for their troubles, but Paul refused because he wants to keep the pennant because he's been told that the pennant is worth millions and millions of dollars. So when they get back to New York, he goes to a jeweler and he's going to sell it, and he's like, I'll it's probably worth half a million. I'll give you 300,000. And then he starts counting out
Whoa.
lira, and he's like, 300,000 lira is about $175. And it ends on that gag.
I was like, Phil, I don't know about you, but when I think of wanting to have a really nice gag to close out my comedy film, I want to make a joke about exchange rates.
Exchange rates. It's right up there with like trade federations and stuff.
Jesus Christ. And yeah, seriously, that's how the freaking movie ends. They walk out of the pawn shop and they start fighting, and we freeze frame of them wrestling with the pendant or wrestling with the $150 on the New York streets.
Which that really endears me to see more of these characters, right? Like, oh
Oh
man, I want to see more of them because they've they're fighting at the end and they're still down on their, like, I
like
don't
they're back
get
where they started in like every sense of that phrase. Like nothing got resolved. They're still in debt up their eyeballs. They didn't grow as characters. Like Donald didn't. He didn't write that detective novel, which again is an amazing idea that they should have done. What's his name didn't like learn to have some morals and become an upstanding PI. Like the old couple, did they develop all those bad photos that we were seeing them take throughout
exactly.
the movie?
There should have been like a hangover-esque montage of like the old couples
Yeah,
photos and stuff.
because like while those photos are being taken, like they actually like in the movie they do the like the camera sound
Yep.
effect. They get a freeze frame. Like we should have had a scene at the end or over the credits of the old guy from that couple getting his photos developed and chuckling to himself, and something like none of the recurring things got resolved. Hell, show me Bruno getting married to the other bride who he was apparently in love with also. Something.
Exactly. Exactly. The movie is a failure on so many levels, from a comedic from a parody, from like gags, from just a storytelling perspective. It's a complete failure.
Yeah, it's and again, I'm kind of conflicted because like we're ripping on this pretty hard, but like we breezed through that summary way faster than we normally do.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think like, and again, it's not that the movie is so inoffensive that there isn't even anything fun or annoying to talk about. It's just boring. And
Boring.
that's like our cardinal sin that we've talked about before. I mean, so it's a half a star for me out of five.
Same here.
I
Same here.
I couldn't in good conscience give it the same zero that I gave Last American Virgin because it didn't like offend me in that way, but it's almost as bad by being so inoffensive. Mostly inoffensive, but mostly all unfunny.
100%. I agree with everything. I agree with everything. And
Yeah.
I was I was kind of looking forward to it. I was like, maybe this is going to be like a lost gem or, hidden movie, because if you read, there's not much about it, but it says like it has a cult following and stuff
Who is this
now.
cult? Who is in that cult?
Exactly. It must be Lauren Dreyfus.
he's,
Because
he's in his underwear, like all these alt accounts on Reddit and Instagram posting, trying to post about it, get it to get a resurgence.
exactly. I don't know. There's literally nothing about it. It made $22,000 at the box office. It's considered a giant bomb, obviously, and probably a low point for 80s comedies. Now, what I did find interesting though is Paramount Plus obviously had this, and
Mm-hmm.
as I was watching, I was like, man, there's like other funny movies that deal with like police and antics like that.
Yeah.
Police Academy is like one of the first ones that come to mind.
Yep. Classic. And its
I
many sequels.
Yes, I recently I watched all of those in the first year of the pandemic, back to back to back to back to back. Jackie was going fucking insane.
I was going to say, and you're no longer married.
Exactly. But there is one movie that we talk about quite often, our love for. And I think we've talked about the TV series at points. And it's interestingly enough, it's on Paramount Plus. And I think our next movie should be of a similar ilk. And we're gonna watch The Naked Gun.
Oh, that's a horse of a different color.
Yes. So it's similar in that it's a comedy about police officers, right?
About funny, incompetent police officers who somehow fumbled their way into a really serious international crime.
Exactly.
And oh my God, wow. So I was not expecting you to pitch that as our next movie, but that is a fantastic like comparison point for this one. Because that Naked Gun does so much right, almost everything right. And this does almost everything wrong.
Yep. And maybe it learns from the mistakes. The Naked Gun was released in 1988, so maybe they watch this and they're like, "Let's
Sure, we
not
could do
do
better than that.
this."
Yeah. So when did the police squad TV show? When was that on?
I think
Was that
that
around
was
now?
like early. I think that was early 80s. That
Was
was
it?
82. Police Squad was 82.
Okay.
6 year gap. The Naked Gun. So
God,
I
what
mean, you could almost think that Canon saw Police Squad and went, especially Police Academy, and went, we need our own similar type movie, but then not make it similar at all.
yeah, I mean it's at least par for the course for canon trying to ape off of like what they see as a popular genre or subgenre. And yeah, like things like between Police Squad, Police Academy, I'm sure there are others out there that I'm just not having off the top of my head, but like funny like police detective comedies. I'm sure they're just trying to rip off that and failing spectacularly.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I want to mention is that I was so bored watching this movie that I actually like made a short little list of things that I found more interesting in the movie than the actual things going on in the foreground. The biggest thing was I was like actually interested in seeing all the Italian landmarks because they film in front of a lot of them. I mean, we talked about the Leaning Tower. We got a really good shot of the Colosseum when right after that end of that first car chase, they were having their argument in front of it. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Lots of good architecture in the background, the museums and stuff. So that was kind of cool. I was even like watching for the real change markers, which are very present in this cut. Um, I always thought that was interesting. I never knew that until recently, but it's like a reel of film was about 20 minutes. And just like clockwork, every 20 minutes you'd start seeing those little black circles pop up on the right hand side of the screen. So
Yep.
I thought that was kind of
Indicate
cool.
change the I'm glad you're finding the good things
The good things,
in this.
all unintentional. I thought it was fun watching the reaction of people on the street because they were probably real Italian people, like wondering what the hell was going on when these monks were having a fist fight in front of the
Oh yeah.
Vatican. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And also I was just wondering like how jealous Lauren Dreyfus must be, like of his brother's success in Jaws and in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
It's interesting because this is his first film. So I bet he got his start because of Richard Dreyfuss. His brother Dick was probably like, yeah, let's give Lorne a try. He's a funny guy. I can see him
Yeah,
talking to like the canon guys. He's a funny guy. Let him do a movie.
yeah. Surely that apple hasn't fallen so far from the same tree that Richard came from.
Exactly. Exactly.
Goo, it's not even the same fruit.
Yeah. So um Richard or Lauren Dreyfus, he didn't really do too much. He's got a couple movies in the 80s, and his last notable thing was My Life in Ruins, which is a 2009 film. So nothing big there. And David Landsberg kind of suffered a similar fate where he didn't really do too much throughout his career. He's done things here or there. His last thing was Stanley's Dinosaur Roundup, where he did the
What?
voice of Dad.
Oh, dad! Wow, that's my favorite character from Stanley's Dinosaur Roundup.
Exactly.
The fuck is that?
So
I mean, okay, it's like of the two of them, I could see Donald back. Would you say the actor's name was?
David Landsberg.
David Landsberg. I could see him maybe having some comedic talent
He's
of the
definitely
two of
more of a
them.
writer, it seems, because he did write 5 episodes of the Cosby Show.
Okay. He sold some
And
scripts. Yeah.
are you ready for this?
Did he write Star Trek episodes?
The Next Generation, the
Oh.
outrageous Okona. The
Oh.
Enterprise
Oh.
rescues a captain of a broken down freighter only to become involved in a dispute between
Yeah.
feuding worlds.
That was the shit. That's kind of similar to the plot of this movie.
Terry Hatcher is in that episode.
Yeah, I remember that. That's a season 1 episode, isn't it? Because I remember he like Wesley is enamored with this guy. He's like, wow, he fit the cool rebel.
Yeah. Shut up, Wesley.
Shut up,
Um,
Wesley.
so yeah, I mean it's interesting, I guess. They both had a cursory,
A brush with success,
yeah,
and that was about it.
but that's about it.
Yeah, I honestly, I've got nothing else to say. Like I said, the most fun I had during this movie was looking at things happening in the background or watching for the real change markers. That was how I was keeping myself awake. I can't recommend this even to people who like Police Academy or that kind of comedy. It's a snooze fest.
Yep. What else have you been watching?
What other good stuff have I been watching? Oh, so much. So I think I mentioned this last episode. So I finished out my annual rewatch of the Alien franchise, capstone by Alien Covenant, which I still like. You and I saw that in the theaters. I think we mentioned that last time. It's a solid like 3.5 or 4 out of 5 for me. And I want to say people give that movie. I mean, granted, it does like grind to a halt when they meet David in the engineer city, but there's still a lot to like in this movie. And people give this movie so much shit for like, oh, those colonists, they're being so stupid because they walk out of they get out of the ship without, spacesuits on and they're breathing all this alien wildlife and blah, blah, blah. Like, do people forget that in the first Alien movie, which is an undisputed classic, like Kane stuck his head in an alien egg
Oh yeah.
like an idiot. I mean, right. And like, not to mention the stupidity that you'd have to have just to go in that ship to begin with, because it's been there for who knows how long. Is it even structurally sound? Like,
The main characters have to do stupid things, else the movie doesn't go anywhere.
exactly. You have to like just let the characters make stupid mistakes so that the movie can happen. Otherwise, Alien would have ended with, yep, that's an alien spaceship. All right. All right. Well, we'll mark it and we'll radio back for Wayland Utani to send a science team and then credits, right? Like,
Exactly.
at some point mistakes have to happen so the movie can happen. Anyway, that's my rant for Alien Covenant. So go watch it. It's a good movie. Don't listen to the haters.
There you go. Haters back off.
Haters back off. The other thing, I watched a couple other things, but I think I'll mention and I'll let you talk about this a little bit too. But we watched the American Genre Film Archives horror trailer show.
Yeah, that was really
which
fun.
which was a lot of fun. We watched that kind of like in sync, so we were kind of like live chatting it. I think I picked that up from a Vinegar Syndrome release or a sale. They were doing a sale, their partner label releases, so I picked it up there. It's kind of on a whim. It's I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's just kind of like like a bunch of these obscure horror movie trailers that they cut together. But it's got a lot of like fun filler in there, like these kitschy drive-in commercials and like let's all go to the lobby kind of stuff, which is really kind of charming. I mean, I think I mentioned this to you in the chat. Like that is basically just a shopping list of weird movies that we want to watch now.
Oh, 100%. And it's great.
Yeah,
Everything about it was great.
yeah, super fun. I mean, if you're weirdos like us who like this kind of kitschy stuff, definitely pick it up if you can on Blu-ray or watch it some other means. So it's definitely a lot of fun. What about you? What else have you been watching?
Oh, geez. Not too much. I think the most notable thing is like I rewatched Spider-Man No Way Home, which was super fun. I watched that with the family. And then I made it through a good majority of the first episode of Joe Bob, where it was Night of the Living Dead.
Right. So yeah, the first episode of season 4, right, of Last Drive-In.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. His 100th episode, right? Or 100th movie?
100th movie. 100th
Yeah.
movie with that show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was those start times. The 9 o'clock start times are killer for comparatively old people like us. We've seen that movie so many times. It was hard to stay awake through the whole thing.
Oh, definitely. I don't. Yeah, I'm just so old.
But yeah, that's always a classic. I will, even though if I'm half asleep, I will always rewatch Night of the Living Dead if it's on.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's such a fun movie. It's so iconic, definitely always worth a watch.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll pick up the second movie. I mean, I think they dropped the second movie for streaming probably today sometime. We're recording this on a Sunday, so yeah, I'll probably pick that up too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Anthropophagus. That's actually one that I have seen before, interestingly enough, a long time ago when I was in high school. So I am interested in rewatching it.
Oh, so that's like another Italian
Yep.
sci-fi monster movie or something.
Yep. Definitely.
Cool.
Well, I think, we'll what was the quote of the week for this week?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so, um, this was a hard one to get quotes for because a lot of the funniest stuff was actually like the stuff that people said in Italian. So it was all subtitled, so I can't really do like a clip quote here. I think the one funny thing that they said in subtitles, I'll just read it, is like the mob families were kind of like conspiring, and they were saying, one of them said, "Soon our cheese will be on every pizza in the world."
Presto il nostro formaggio sarà su tutte le pizze del mondo.
Yeah.
Which is like the most Italian thing an Italian villain could say. But the actual quotes of the week, there were two of them. I was just keying on all of the situations where like side characters were just basically telling the main two guys to fuck off, basically.
Yeah.
And there's one really early on, which we'll play here.
Hiya, Duffy. Drop dead, Miller. You creep.
Which is hilarious. That some random guy in the street just says, "Drop dead, Miller."
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. And the other one is when Donald, I think, walks into the Miller's detective agency, and this poor unpaid secretary, he just says, "Hi," and she says, "Up yours."
Hi.
Up yours.
It's so perfect. Like it's the perfect reflection of how this movie interacts with the audience. Like it tries so hard to like endear itself to the audience, and we're just like, no, fuck off. You're lame.
Exactly.
Yep. That is the quote of the week, such as it is.
Nice. Very nice. Well, if you like what you're hearing, go ahead and subscribe. You can find us on all the major podcast networks: Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts. You can find us on YouTube at That's Canon. You can find us on I'll edit this part because I'm fucking up. You can email us at thatscanon@gmail.com. And remember, since we said it,
That's canon.